God bless you this evening. I wanted to do a short little study on the Malachi chapter 4, 5, and 6 and just look at just very shortly, because we talked about in previous videos about Revelations 10:7 and how Revelations 10:7 is a scripture that was a prime example of how the Message uses scriptures to support doctrine, but the only bad thing is that the scriptures they use are scriptures that are pulled from its context. Malachi 4:5, Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to the fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Now, of course, the Message believes that this Elijah the prophet, this prophecy here was speaking of a prophet that would come to the Gentile church just before the rapture. But what I want to read you first here is Malachi chapter 1 and verse 1. Malachi says, the burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. Let me read that again. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. So my first point is, and this is the crux of this whole thought tonight, to show you that Malachi 4, 5, and 6 is taken from its context, because chapter 1 and verse 1 says that it's the burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by the prophet Malachi. So we see that whatever Malachi had to say, that he was a Jewish prophet sent to the nation of Israel, and what he said really applies to the nation of Israel and not to the church at all. Of course, as the church, we can gain principle, we can learn doctrine, we can learn prophecy, but to take a scripture from the book of Malachi and try to apply it to the Gentile church, well, that's the error right there. Because the whole book of Malachi is speaking to the nation of Israel. And this, I want you to read this here in chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. It says, For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all that the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. Now look at verse 3. And you shall tread down the wicked, they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. So let me ask you this question. What day is Malachi speaking of here that we just read, verses 1 through 3, where there will be the wicked will become ashes and the righteous will walk upon those ashes? What day is he referring to? Well, he's referring to the time of the Great Tribulation, the Battle of Armageddon, during this time period. This does not happen before the rapture of the church. So obviously this is during the Great Tribulation, which is God dealing with the Jews for that last week there. God would deal with them for 70 more weeks, and 69 weeks have already been fulfilled. So the last week is yet to be fulfilled, which will be the 7-year period of the tribulation. So what we just read in chapter 4, verses 1 through 3, deal with the time period of during the Great Tribulation. This is big because I'm showing you the context of Scripture, what's going on. Now look at verse 4 of chapter 4. It says, Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel. So my question would be, if this portion of Scripture is going to be a prophecy to the Gentile church age before the rapture of the church to get them ready for the rapture, why would God tell them to remember the law of Moses? Obviously, this is a prophecy to the nation of Israel. And of course, the next verse is, Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. He shall turn the heart of the children to the heart of the fathers to the children, the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. I believe this to be a twofold prophecy of John the Baptist and the Elijah the prophet during the Great Tribulation, because of the fact that God says that he would, if he didn't send this Elijah the prophet, that he would come and smite the earth with a curse. Of course, he's not going to smite the earth with a curse and redo everything after Calvary. So obviously this scripture is twofold, and that's where we see the context of Scripture from verses 1 through 3 in chapter 4, speaking of the time of the Great Tribulation during the Battle of Armageddon. We cannot take this scripture here, and especially from verse 4, where God's saying, remember the law of Moses. We can't. Why would God say, remember the law of Moses, and oh, by the way, I'm going to send you Elijah the prophet just before the rapture. I'm speaking to my Gentile bride, but I'm going to tell them, remember the law of Moses. I mean, it's not within context of Scripture to try to place this prophecy to the Gentile church. I'm going to place my email address on this video, and if anybody would have any questions that you would like to ask me, whether it be personal questions, any kind of just question you would like to ask me concerning testimony, any question you would have doctrinally, you can remain anonymous, but we will just read the email over videos, and I will try to do my best to answer your questions. So I appreciate you listening to me tonight, and we'll talk to you at another time. God bless you.